Hello everybody, I'm back again for the second session on my shelves. On the last video, I know it cut off towards the end because I ran out of memory space, but I was talking about filling these backing spaces, which I am going to be needing to do today. I've got some timbers, as you can see, these that I need to measure, and these that I need to measure up and cut, and I need to see how many I've got, because I don't think I've got enough. But what I have got is a lot of offcuts, pieces sort of this size and a bit smaller. And what I'm thinking of doing is, if I need to, I'll get a number of the smaller pieces and I will stick them together, probably using glue, but I'll come to that if I need to. My intention today was to basically come and take the shelves apart and start sanding on them, but having seen that I do still need to do a bit of sizing and cutting, I'm going to do that to begin with. Also, as I mentioned on the last video, I ran out of screws. I've not been able to get any new ones yet because I'm fucking skint, which is a bit annoying. But at the same time, I don't want to be varnishing wood and then screwing or drilling and screwing it afterwards. I'd rather have it drilled and screwed, so the damage to the wood is done, then have it varnished. Right, so that when the screw goes in again, any damage it may cause is going to be very minimal. It should save me having to do a lot of touching up, but I haven't got the screws. So one thing I may be able to do today, for example, I mean, it's mainly for example, these pieces on the front where you're going to see the screw holes that I'm going to make. Well, what I may do with these is take apart, well, for example, take the top off here, the rest of it still be connected, but that then frees up, what, 2, 4, 6, 8 screws, which I can then use on the front of this. So I can then drill and screw that, make the holes, take it off, drill and screw the next one, and so on. So I can get all my drilling and screwing done, even though I haven't got all of the all of the screws that I need. Now, another problem that I came up against, or should I say I thought of when I was at home, and I was thinking of the stability of this. Now at the moment it's not very stable. There's not a lot of that way movement. It'll be even less when I do my cross beams. But it's more the forwards and backwards I was concerned about. Now it's not very stable at the moment because it's on a very uneven floor. But even then, it may not be very stable when I put it in place, and that concerns me, because if it falls over, it's potentially going to cause quite a bit of damage, and I don't want that to happen. So I've been trying to think of ways that I can sturdy this up, and there's a couple of ways that I've thought about it. In hindsight, I'd have thought about this beforehand, and what I would have done, where the bottom shelf is, where the bottom leg is, I'd have made it with a slightly longer piece of timber, and then that would have given me feet effectively at the bottom. Now you could say, well, just bang some extra length on underneath anyway, and I potentially could do that, but I have to bear in mind there are a lot of screws already going through the wood, through the top and through the sides. And now you could say, well, don't use screws, use glue, but I want this to stay together. So just putting a foot underneath might not work too well. But then I thought, well, maybe I could go a bit bigger and use one of the bigger pieces and then really like give it some beefy feet, which could look pretty good, but I'd still have the same kind of issue where I'm going to have to drill down through the shelf, effectively through the timber shelf into this beam, which would be at the bottom, but then it would also raise the whole unit up and I'd end up with a gap that I don't really want. So that doesn't help me. And then I thought, well, maybe I could put the foot on the side. Now that might work, and I am going to measure up to see how much extra width it would put on my shelves, because I am limited to what width I can go to. But also, if I'm going to put this on the side, now that means I need something to go all the way through this, or I'm going to need to be able to go all the way through from the inside into this, or all the way from the outside through this into this. It could cause more problems than I need. Now, another option that I'm sort of toying with at the moment is to, and I actually think this might be the way that I go, partly because I think for the visual aspects of it, what I'm thinking of doing is, if I've got another piece of timber, okay, got one here. Imagine that this here is the front face, so it's like this here, right? Well, what I'm thinking of doing is getting a piece of timber, a bit smaller than this, and having it butt up next to it, and then another piece of timber, effectively making a triangle, so obviously cut flush, so giving myself a triangular foot. And what I could actually do is, if I make it out of this, if I can show you properly, whereas we've got this face, if I actually use a piece of timber to add that on, that can be my mounting point, and then another piece of timber that creates the downward angle, and then more timber there to complete the triangle and give it its foot. Now, I wouldn't necessarily need to do this front and back, because if the shelves start tipping back, they ain't gonna have nowhere to go, because they're gonna be up against a wall. And if they were to start tipping forward, it's not gonna go anywhere, because it's got the feet, the triangular feet, to save it going forwards. So that's kind of the process that I'm toying with at the moment. And one of the reasons for I am thinking this is cutting these angles shouldn't be too much of a problem. Got a crosscut saw that can cut at 40 foot, can cut at any degree I want really. But it's having this flat piece that would be easier to mount to the front of the shelves and wouldn't lift the shelves up. So that's why I'm thinking of going that way. But obviously I need to make sure I've got enough timber to do that. So I'm kind of, as for plan of action for today, I'm kind of like, well, I know what I wanted to do, but I know what I need to do. And to be honest, I'm thinking, well, I was thinking feet first, but I've only got a handful of these longer timbers to go into these spaces. So I think what I'm going to need to do is sort those out and see what offcuts I've got at the end of it. Because I mean, looking at those timbers, how long are they? I know this is a lot of waffling, but this is all stuff that's been going off in my mind over the last week. Okay, they're 95, and I'm going to need them to be 64. So I'm going to have 31 centimetres off each of these. Now there's 3 pieces of wood that I'd be able to use. Now I've also got a couple of other bits of timber that I can use. So I'm thinking I might have to go with making my feet first. Oh, do I make the feet first? No, I can't make the feet first because I've got to cut the wood to make the feet. Right, I'm going to cut the wood to fit all of my spacers, front and back, and then I'm going to see what the situation is. So, I'll be back in a bit when I fucked it all up and I ain't got a fucking clue what to do. Okay, bit of an update time. I have chopped up some wood. I've got a number of pieces now that are at the right size. I have had to go to a slightly different piece of timber. You'll see it's a different depth, but it'll be alright to be used on the back. But I am going to have to build 2 of these. So it works out that I've only really need to glue 3 pieces of wood together here and 2 pieces of wood together here. I could do that with just gluing 1 piece, but the piece of wood is very different in style, so it would look obviously out of place. So what I'm going to do with these is basically I'm going to get a paintbrush and I'm going to get some PVA glue. I am going to smother the ends of these in there, and I am then, I haven't got one here, I'm going to see how long our longest clamps are. I don't think they're big enough to go on the end of this, but I will be able to clamp down like so. I will be able to clamp them together. So basically I can put them in position like so and then clamp them down. Now this piece is still going to need a bit cutting off, but because I'm using a big table saw, what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it all together and then cut that end off. It will make it easy for me to cut it off, but also I'll find out how well the glue is going to stick. But it's going to take a while for these to go off, and I've got 2 of them to do, but it's not too much of a problem because I should now have enough pieces that I can get these 2 set in and leave them, put them to one side. That'll give me a bit of time to get rid of the unicorns. Oh yeah, I must admit, this might sound really evil, but I've really been wanting to be able to cut one of these pieces of wood right across the unicorn so I can put it on the table saw, video it, send it to my brother so he can show his daughters. Mean, I know, but I thought it'd be funny. So yeah, so I can let them set while I'm cleaning those unicorns off. If I also, well, I'll get that done before I'm ready to do this. Hopefully I will be able to start drilling and screwing some of these pieces. Now, one of the things I am going to have to do is I'm not going to be able to screw in from the ends into these pieces of wood, because well, I suppose I could, but it'd be one hell of a long fucking screw. But also I may, see, I was thinking about screwing them into the back of the shelves, but I'm a bit afraid that I might split the wood. But I suppose if I've got a long enough, thin enough screw, it'll be alright. I think I'd rather screw into there than going long screws through here, because I'm going to have a centrepiece running down here that it's not going to be that easy to screw all the way through. It's a lot of pain in the arse, whereas I'd rather just be able to screw it straight onto the back of the shelves. So that's what I'm going to be getting on with in a moment. So once I've put these together and got them setting, Well, actually I might video me setting them up. I need to go and get everything ready, so I'll be back in a few. Right, here we go then. Got a bit of glue in my tub. Got a paintbrush. And I've got a couple of bits of timber, but I've put some paper towel around them just to try and help stop the wrong bits of wood sticking together. If paper sticks to it, fine, I can get that off easy, I can sand that off. But something that my uncle did teach me, he was saying that he used to do a lot in woodworking, was painting on glue is so much better than just like putting a couple of wiggly lines and then squeezing the bits of wood together. If you paint it on, you can make sure you get absolute full coverage. And if you put too much on, you can just pull it off with your brush. So, honestly, ever since he told me that, I mean, it's not anything I'd ever thought of really doing before. Ever since he told me that, anytime applying glue, yeah, use a paintbrush. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, also it's always handy to have paper towels at the ready. Unfortunately, the long clamps are not long enough to do the whole length. Now I'm going to try and position these. This is already sticking quite nicely. Okay. So now I can get my clamps. See what I can do just one there. It's come off a little bit, but I expect that. The hope is that when I put this clamp on, it won't move anymore. And if I want, like I'm going to, and get a bit of extra glue and just go and make sure that in the gaps are glued. The glue can sand off afterwards. I just want to make sure that I get good bonding. Okay. Right, now that that one's done, I'll move that over to one side and hope I don't fuck it up. We'll go on to the next one. Now this one may be a little more awkward with it being in 3 pieces, but we'll find out. I suppose one of the things I could do is actually paint the glue on here like this. I might try it this way actually, this time. So paint that on there like that. Okay, now that shouldn't move. I'm going to do both ends of this because both ends need doing. Now it's always handy as well to write on your wood. That's not an S, it's a 2. So I know which way round the piece of wood goes because I've tried to put the pieces of wood together in a close matching pattern. Okay, I get this on a little bit and then make sure it's in the right position. Getting caught up here. be honest, it's looking alright that. I mean, this for me doesn't have to be perfect. And also, these pieces that I'm making are probably going to be on the back side of the unit. Now, something else I've been thinking of, or I spotted today, and I've been thinking about doing it anyway, but I spotted something today that made me think, maybe I can use that. One of the things that I've been thinking is whether I should sort of clad the cabinet, the shelves that I'm making, so whether I should surround them. And I thought, well, it'd be using up a lot of pieces of wood, but I'm looking down there, and for anyone that remembers, some time ago when I got my dad some coat hooks, and I got a piece of wood that was part of an old set of bunk beds from when me and my brothers were kids, and used that as the base of the base for coat hooks. Well, what I've got down there is basically the bed slats, so the bits that obviously go across the middle of the bed, and they are actually nice pieces of wood, and I'm looking at them and thinking, there's quite a lot of them, I might be able to use them. But not only that, I'm pretty sure we've got more than enough scrap wood for me to clad front and back on this. Well, not front, but sides and back. And if I did do it, it could look quite nice, but at the same time, it's adding extra work. And sorry, dogs are barking. It's adding extra work, and my intention isn't really to add work. But there was something else as well. Yes, these my offcuts from the shelves. There's a few of these as well, and I thought, well, these might look quite nice on the back or on the sides. I was mainly thinking about the sides, but so it's one of the reasons why I've been keeping the offcuts, because I could use them to clad it, but we'll see on that. Right, I'm going to take a little bit of a break now. I'm going to let them dry. So I'm going to take a break and I'm going to get rid of the unicorns. See you in a bit. Right, I'm going to give a bit of an update because I'm going to go and have some dinner in a minute. I've managed to cut and mount the front facing pieces, except for one. I still need to do the bottom piece, but I need to cut 2 more pieces of wood. I was going to do that now, but dinner's going to be ready in a moment. I've also fitted the pieces on the back as well, so the back lip. And one of the reasons why I wanted to put these pieces on here is because it added some depth to the shelves. And obviously I've got a lip at the back so nothing can fall off the back. I've also literally just finished putting this on, which is also going to have a piece on either end. But with that, I'm actually thinking I might cut it to a pattern or something. I don't know, I have not decided yet. By the sounds of it, dinner's just ready, so I'm going to have to disappear in a sec. Annoyingly, not got any sanding done today. I will show the back of the unit though. Yeah, so that's the back with, I said I'd got all the other pieces mounted. I haven't, have I? Because I'm going to let these dry. I'm going to leave these probably until next time I'm here. So there's 4 pieces here basically, which makes up each 4 there. Now something that I have ended up having to do was I measured and cut all of these pieces, but then they didn't actually fit. I had to take a little bit off, a tiny bit off to get them to fit. And obviously now that it's all screwed in, it's making me have a couple of thoughts. One of which is there's a lot of screws in this now. And it's actually making me wonder whether I sand it and varnish it built rather than breaking it all down, because that is gonna, I think I underestimated how much extra work that's gonna entail, or perhaps at least, I don't know. Yeah, I am tempted to sand and stain. The only thing is, if I do that, no, you know, I can't do that, because there's too many places on it where I'm not going to be able to get into a few bits, a few cracks, and it'll be noticeable. So although I'm not after perfection, I'm at least after a decent job. So yeah, I think it's going to need to come apart. I mean, one of the upsides to that is, yeah, it's all going to get to be sanded. It's all going to get to be varnished, stained and varnished. It's all going to get to be screwed back together, and when I screw it back together, I could also glue it. The only thing is, I'm not sure about putting glue on top of varnish. I suppose I could always just sand it a bit. But yeah, so quite a lot it turns out to do, but I've got to admit I'm fairly happy with it. I mean, okay, that's the front. When you look at it, it's going to be a fairly sturdy set of shelves. I mean, the shelves are quite deep, and I think once it's sanded and stained and varnished, I think it'll look quite nice, and then I can perhaps decide at a later stage whether I'm going to clad the sides. At the moment I'm thinking not. I'm still thinking of using these trim pieces in there, and potentially along there as well, but obviously longer ones. The only thing is, putting them that way could be a problem, so it would potentially have to go on the outside, but then it'd be sticking out. So yeah, haven't fully decided on that one. We'll see. I might put a sheet or something there, but anyway, I'm running out of memory on the phone, and dinner's going to be ready, so I'm going to have to leave it for now and come back to it at a later point. See you in a bit.